Hi everyone, my name is Cobus Bernard. I'm a principal developer advocate here at UiPath. And in case you're wondering about the accent, no, I'm not from the United States. I'm from South Africa originally. So today we're going to have a bit of fun. I've got two of my colleagues here, Isabu and Tuan, and we are going to take a look at agents. So primarily, if you've started building an agent, it's a classic situation where, it works on the laptop. It's fine. It does everything you want, and then you try and get it into production, and then you realize, oh, wait, there might be one or more two things that I need to worry about before I can get it into production. So what we're going to go through today is Isabu is going to show us how to build a discrepancy agent, and then Ton is going to show us how to bring it into the main workflow to orchestrate everything together so we can get a fully production-ready running agent working, which has memory and a couple of other features that we're going to go through. So before we kick off with all the fun technical stuff, we want to take a quick poll of the room to see where you are at with building your agents. So we're going to bring a Slido poll onto the screen quickly so we can see. There we go. So if you can scan the QR code with your phone, it's probably easier, or use the code just to enter it in the browser. You'll be able to get to there and start voting or start providing answers there. Are we able to bring the vote count up as it comes on the screen? Because I think that would be fun to see as people start voting to see how things go along. But let's give them a couple of seconds longer just to vote. So while we wait for people to vote, Isabu and Tuan, and I think I'm pronouncing both of your names incorrectly. So I'm on the receive on the dealing out end of it. I normally have that issue with my name. Why don't you quickly introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure thing. Let me start. So I'm Eusebio Recan, product manager for agents and agent gateway for UiPath. Been there from the start with agents, even before we had a name for them. So yeah, that would be for me. Tuan, on to you now.
Thanks, Yusebu. Hi, everyone. My name is Tuan Nguyen. I help lead agents here alongside Yusebu, as well as some other members of my team. Maybe you know them, Maria Weimer, Taki Jarif. And here at UiPath, I lead Autopilot for Everyone, conversational agents, and the low-code agent builder experience. Really excited for you to be here today and show you some of the more advanced features to get you to the next level of your production use cases.
Awesome, thanks. So while the poll is going on, I can see we've got a bunch of people that haven't started with agents yet. That is great. So there should be a lot for you to learn today. Let's give it another, I think, like 10, 15 seconds for people to continue voting. And while we do that, let me ask my two co-presenters some trick questions. So this is one I normally use in an interview. To start off with, which is what is five toes and isn't your foot?
I'll have Tuan go first. I get it.
Five toes, it's not here, but I don't know.
Now
Okay.
remember, the thing is, it's not your foot, it's my foot.
Ah, there we go.
So yes, dad jokes
So,
incoming.
so I think we are not going into the next phase into the interview, right? I guess that's it for us.
Yep,
Okay.
all done. No, I use that actually. Sometimes when I at AWS when I interviewed people, you could see that they are super nervous. So I like to start off with just a silly joke. Um, on the dad joke scale, it's normally like you don't get a response, or you get a groan, or you get someone to laugh. So the sweet spot is there between the groan and the maybe laugh a little bit, because that tends to make people less nervous. So the other fun coding joke I know is why does Python live on land?
Why?
It's above sea level.
Ah, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that one.
Cool. Awesome. I think let's go on to the next Slido question. We've got there we go. Ah, okay, so the majority of people for today's session are not building with agent or not building them yet. Some are building with low code, and we've got one or two that are actually using LangGraph or Llama Index or one of the coding assistants. Awesome. For the second question, there we go. Let's see this one. So this is in terms of trying to get a sense for what are you trying to learn from the session, because this is a live session, not recorded, we like to run these at the start of the session to get a feel for what are the main things people want out of the session. Then we can have see if we can adjust things and answer some more questions around that. Um, let's see. Doo-doo-doo. One person is responding. Let's see if we can get a couple more. So I think while we wait for this, what are some of the fun things you've done with agents? Uh, let's put Ton on the spot first.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. For me personally, I try to dog food a lot of our own products, right? Try to use them within our own daily workflows. And so we actually have agents that monitor all of our help channels, help it classify and categorize them. It searches through our documentation and also helps us create tickets for them. So this helps us immensely, right? We have a lot of help channels across the company. So this has helped me, really leverage myself throughout my daily processes.
Yeah, I want to say that help bot specifically in the CLI channel actually helped me yesterday because I was playing around with the CLI, and when you install the different tools, so let's say for one of the newer ones, coded agent, um, when I try to just invoke the command, it said, sorry, it doesn't work. But when I do invoke something like IXP for the document processing, it actually automatically installed. And I'm like, well, how does this work? So I popped a question in the channel. 2, 3 seconds later, the bot comes back and says, hey, by the way, here's the reason. This is which of the tools will automatically install based on the allow list and things like that. So those kind of agents are awesome.
Yeah, by the way, Kavas, you should see the Hack Week project that I've done with my team called HiveMind. It's supposed to
Oh,
address just that. The jury was on Monday, and yeah, it was among the finalists. Maybe we will get more funding for
oh,
that
oh,
project.
awesome. Oh, no, I would definitely want to see that. Um, and with that, in terms of Slido, I believe the third question, which is an open text one in terms of top of mind questions, we're not going to bring that one onto the screen, or are we? Let me just check. Um, okay. Can we see the results for this active poll?
Aren't they already on screen? Because I can
Oh,
see them.
oh, agents and use cases. Okay. Oh, okay. These are the
Can you
questions.
see
Okay.
them?
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. I misunderstood Slido. It's been a while since I used Slido. Yeah. So, okay. I think if you just scroll down slowly, so it's basically workflows, how to transform a robot into agents, know how to integrate, when to make decisions. Okay. Um, reliable and secure agents. Okay, and when to use an agent instead of normal RPA process, and also once again the use case. So there definitely seems to be a sense of how do we add agents to RPA processes, and then also on the deployment side, which is a great way then to hand it off to Yusubu. I'm going to have to practice saying your name. So why don't you take us through what we are building today?
Yeah, sure thing. And by the way, as principle on the approach and what we will show, both me and Tuan, is that we don't have a hidden agenda on hitting some points or the next features and that we want to present them. But rather we want to honestly increase the appetite to build agents, to build agents with UiPath, increase the appetite to take these agents from a POC level to production grade. And as a benefit, once you do, we would like to hear that story, the story of how they provide value in production. And secondly, we will focus on what we think that are the latest tools and features that we have to actually improve this path, this journey from an idea, a scenario, a need, up until production, and even beyond with the continuous improvements. Okay, so let me share my screen because typically, even though in this space a lot of things have changed and they are still changing, there are some things that remain as they are, and I think they will remain as such for a while. Typically, when starting developing agents, in a way or another, one would end up with a document with a few lines. And those few lines are capturing the need and the use case. And typically that comes from, very simple observation, nothing fancy, not the entire workflow, a piece of the puzzle. Like we have in one instance the need to compare an invoice and a purchase order and something to decide if we go ahead and pay, or we consult with another human, or we reject that payment. This is high stakes. If we pay or not, that's a decision that has direct impact on how our business goes. So with that, we can think of a larger flow, and Tuan will show how we can assemble this. But typically, as large blocks, it will require ingesting, having the data, maybe an email, and then extracting from that email the content and the invoice. And once we do that, then we want to do some verification. Do we know this vendor, or is it net new? If we don't know, maybe we should do a research, maybe it is legitimate. Ultimately, it will end up into a point of decision. Do we pay or do we not pay this invoice based on the purchase orders and the vendor that we have within our business? And then finally, we would have to act and to have a final response. In this process, there are need for different agents, like advanced agents, and Tuan will touch on that. And the way we would summarize the response and give a proper response before we do the actual payment. But the core, the part that we need accuracy and to design well, is the discrepancy analysis agent, right? The one that would look at the data and would say we can go on with the payment, refuse, or escalate to a human. No, since we have this, typically how we would reach up to that document would be with very plain English. We will not need to pay it, send to human, or refuse. We'll say, okay, what we need the amounts to add up, obviously. We need that if the discrepancy is more than $100, then always let's check that. Okay, that would be a discussion. If we have the same invoice, maybe we should do the same thing twice. We should check the vendor before we do anything, because that's a sanity thing to add into the process, and so on. So this would be observations. And this observation actually contain the artifact that we'll eventually have to build. Just to give you an example, and we will go back to this, we want to know how serious this is when you have a discrepancy, right? And this would dictate the output shape. You have to have a field that would capture that how serious it is, maybe severity, maybe something else. Or if the same thing, if you want to pay it, send it to human, or refuse it, then that will be a decision-based routing. If you want to have, if the discrepancy is beyond $100, then that would translate to an escalation threshold. What typically we will do in this situation is we will take this need and transform it into a spec, and then try to, again, convert those specs into building this agent, or this logic into an agent. Now, what I want to show you today is doing the same thing, but skipping one step, skipping the middle layer, which is to transform the discussion and the business needs into a spec or everything that is intermediary, but rather using coding agent to do that step for you. And for this, we will have three ingredients that will fit to the coding agent. One is the CLI, which is the hands being able to interact with the platform. Another one would be skills, which gives the UiPath knowledge. So Claude, for instance, or Codex or whatever, they know Python, they know LangGraph, they know whatever, but they need to know UiPath, right? For instance, they need to know how projects are built. If you have an agent JSON, how is that built? What are the fields there? How to resolve bindings? What is the runtime needed for a certain thing? Where do evaluations live? So on and so forth. And SDK, so that we can take UiPath platform and make it a programmable library. Okay, so enough of this. Let's go to the building experience and see how this would look like. Let's open the terminal. So we discussed about first the command line. And with the command line, it's a very, very simple story. It's called VIP. And then the first thing that maybe you do with the command line is to say help. And if you look at this, we have some commands and install tools. If you look at the install tools, just as a reference, we have agents we will use today, but we have these for the entire platform. We have for functions, we have for Maestro, for the platform, for orchestrator, which is this one, so on and so forth. If you wanted to see what we can do with these tools, which are reliable, every time you run, you will give the same thing, highly curated list of capabilities that we will feed to the coding agent. For instance, if I want to list the models that are available to be used, like from the LM gateway, then I have this command and have this list and the number of tokens that are supported. The same list is the one that you would see in agent builder, for instance. It is the same one, but we have this in the command line interface for us to use, but mainly whatever I'm showing here is for the coding agent to leverage and use in a reliable fashion. Now, we can do even more than that, obviously. For instance, if you want to find out what are the entities in data fabric, we have this command, which is UIP data fabric entities and something after, and this is the response. Purchase orders, vendors, and system users. Antoine will detail on this. But if you go again to the platform, so now we are even outside the building experience and we go to the data fabric, you will see the same entities in the data fabric: purchase order, system users, and vendor names. Okay, and I found that with just one command. I can go even further, but I think you get the point by now that I can even read those purchase orders, and a coding agent can use the list of tools to reliably interact and change the UiPath platform or get data from the UiPath platform. So that's one part of it. The second one is the skills. Let's see what skills we have, and maybe I can even show you how to install them because it's a very simple command. These are the skills. This will give UiPath knowledge to the coding agent, but it's nothing fancy. So if you go on the public website on the GitHub, you'll have here the skills. And if I open the skills folder, then the one that we will use today is UiPath agents. Maybe I should zoom in a bit. And if you go to reference, you see that we have two separate entities, one for coded and one for low code, and even a guide. This, again, is not for a human to read. We can do it, but this is meant for Claude to read it, to understand what is the difference between one and another and how to build this such as that it is 100% compatible with UiPath. So it's a native build within UiPath. Okay, so we can even go back to this. You can even read part of those skills. For instance, this one, if I read the top level skills for agents, it will indicate how I can go from low code to coded and how to make the difference between the two. This is just a small part of it. And if I want to install it, I can even go ahead and install it again. I already have them, but just to show how it would go, you would run one dedicated command, and as you can see, I have the 24 skills installed. So it seems that everything is set. I have a CLI, I have the skills, and obviously the SDK that's open source and available for me to use. Okay, and I will clear my command. If I go to build that agent, for instance, the discrepancy agent, then what I can do is to take the requirements, which are this one right here, and feed this to an agent. But I can even create it with command line. So for instance, let me make sure that I'm in the correct folder, and now I can create a new agent. So I say UIP agent because this is for local agent. And if I hit enter, then I'll see that I have this part which is called init, which scaffolds a new agent. This seems fair. Let me clear search. Sorry. UiPath agent init, and I will give it a name, discrepancy agent, and a model, right? So it's successful. I added a new agent. It is here, this entry here, and it has everything. It has agent.json, everything that I need. Now, because this one is synchronized with Studio Web, I can even switch to the Studio Web. And as I go here, you can see it is continuously synchronized, and I have the same agent in Agent Builder. And it was built with one command. it is now empty. That's true, but it is a create new agent experience. Now, if I want to take my business requirements, I'll say I'll go to Claude, maybe let me create a new terminal, say Claude, okay, and then I'll just paste I think the business requirement that you've seen here. And Claude will start understanding the context and activating the right skills to build this agent. So we will wait until we see it actually selected the correct agent. Yeah, there is some security things going on. And now I can see that I have this skill successfully installed, which is skill UiPath agent, the exact one that I've shown you previously. I did not mention that this is the skill. I just said this is what I need, and it matched my need to the type of agent that it would actually create that. Okay, so since I have that, maybe we can go ahead and see what it has created. And let me do just that. And we can even see that in agent builder, right? So if we go now to discrepancy agent with to the agent.json, you can see that now I have this description. And for the actual prompt, I have you are a discrepancy agent, upstream, and you'll receive an invoice. And I also have the input formatted like it knows that I will expect a PO and an invoice. But easier way to see this, so the same agent, if I refresh it here, let me see, can I refresh it. Let me force a refresh. Okay, so this is the same agent. So discrepancy agent low code. You can see that I have populated the system prompt, the user prompt with the right input and output. So with that, just that input to the coding agent, and I can open the data manager. And if you remember, I said that while we discuss, whatever we discuss, it can be matched with a direct need to the artifact. For instance, how serious it is, then let's see if that was captured here. So it should be an output, obviously, and maybe discrepancies, and yeah, look, severity. I didn't have to create this field to say it's a string, to make it description. It took my need. I said, okay, you need to see how serious it is. I will create a severity field for you. So this is in low code. Okay, so I will go even further and create another agent in the same session, but this time it will be coded, and I will even show you why coded makes sense in this scenario. And Tuan will take it to a next level to see how it makes sense in the broader picture. So let me make sure again that I'm in the right folder. And what I will do now is first, again, let me create that folder. I will call this discrepancy agent but coded this time. And I will create also with the UiPath CLI a new agent. So UiP coded agent team, which will create a new agent right here. And when I say UiP coded agent, I have this command called init, which will initialize this project, which seems to be exactly what I need. So I will do just that. Initialize the project. And with the second command, as you can see, I already have a working coded agent. It's a simple one, does not do what I need until now. But yeah, I will copy a version of an existing coded agent. And with that, I will make a change to it. Okay, let me try this one. So now I have a snapshot with a version of the coded agent. Let's have a run. Up until now, we'd used normal invoices to make this change, but this time I would give it a harder job to do. So I'll take an input, and it will be this inflated input.json. I'll just copy into my coded agent to be easier to run. And I will run this thing. So it will be UIP coded agent, run agent, and I will give it this file, and I will show you what this file actually does. So this one will be inflated input.json, and I'll give it a go. Okay. So while it runs, I will show you how this looks like and what is the invoice I actually gave to the agent. So it's actually this invoice. There is a small discrepancy in the total, which is $48, but seems to be okay. So the vendor is okay, the currency is okay, the PO number matches, and the total is below a threshold. So discrepancy agent says, go ahead, pay, everything is good. If we go back to the actual run, we have this field here. Maybe I should zoom in a bit, but I think you can see escalate false. Well, what happens actually in the background is that there is a big miss here, which because we have a padding in the invoice. So you can see 3 times 300 does not equal 948. So we are charged for something that we should not be charged. And the result should be a refusal to pay this. So now let's see how a coding agent can help us fix this from this point. Okay, so what I will do, I'll say Claude, because and yeah, we can use Sonnet or whatever, and I'll give it a very simple prompt right here. Maybe I'll say one more, just one. um, Flag, maybe when the invoice unit price exceeds the PO unit price for, and I will tell him for what agent I need. I need that. I'll say for the coded agent in this case, and that's it. Now let's watch it. See what it does. So sit back, relax. Let's see if it actually solves our problem just by giving the prompt. Okay, so the first response here is that this is a UiPath coded agent. So it identified it correctly. Okay, and it said, let me look at the main.py because it knows that that is the source and that is the actual code that is being run. Okay, so once it does that, okay, ask me for approval here. It says that it found where to make the change. At line 346, it should do a deterministic change to check every line item against padding. Okay, so it says, okay, I'm done. You will find this at this line 234. If I go to main.py, I go to that exact line, I will find the change 234, which is this one, right? And now, if that is true, I should be able to run again with the same input and see if it solves the problem. So again, this is a live run with a live change with a coding agent for a certain use case. So while it runs other stuff, I have this part here which says escalate true, which means you should not pay this. You should go for human review. So actually it got me from that point to this one where the payment is rejected. Okay, I will close this just to make sure that we have time for the other part. Just one comment because I think this will show how things can go further. So before we go to what Tuan will show you, which to have in a complete flow, we want to make sure that atomically this agent is accurate and it can adjust to multiple scenarios. So for that, I will run an eval, 3 evals, so I think it's more than that, where each case, even the padding one, that's set before that, such that whenever I release this to production, I know that I checked for this case that I just showed. With the padding, I have an eval set for this, and it will run, will give me a score. If the score is okay, then I have confidence that we'll treat that case okay. If not, then I will have to do some changes. Okay, so now I run 3 evals live, and the final score is 72, which is not good enough. But then you see that I have these 4 use cases where it tests against real with real LM calls with real scenarios, and then I can go to see, okay, this one failed, and I can go into that and fix it. And by the way, I can also fix that with a coding agent as well. So I hope this gave a good feeling on how you can build fast, consistently, complex, and also reliably. So Tuan, take it to the next level.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Yusefu. Oh, sorry, Kovis. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, no, no. All good. Just jumping in. I just want to quickly highlight that last little bit that you spoke about there, the evals. So for those of you not familiar, eval is just a short for evaluations. So this is a way where you set up specific scenarios, run them through the agent, and then test the result. And the whole purpose of that, which makes it very important, is that you set up, let's say, some of the edge cases and some of the other ways that the agent should react, and then you can actually test those before you release the agent and publish it to production. Because as most of you are aware by now, that agents sometimes decide to take a bit of a break and hallucinate and not give the right answer. So that's also important to make sure that your agent's actually working the way it is. So I will now keep quiet again and let Tuan take over.
All right. Thanks, Kovis. Hey, everyone. Tuan again. So what I want to show you now is a couple of unique capabilities that we have available to agents that you might not be aware of. One is going to be runtime, what we call memory. And the latter two are going to be advanced agents and MaestroFlow, which now support agents in public preview. Those are both design time concepts. So before I jump into memory, a lot of people do ask me, Tuan, I've gone ahead and I've created evaluations for my agents. It works well. Now I'm deploying it to production. How can I incorporate some of the learnings, some of the executions and things that the agent is doing well in production into, the memory of this agent so it can learn from it, right? Do I need to go back in and do I need to update the agent system prompt every time I want to make an update? Sometimes, the things that the agent is learning, such as an escalation or how a user chose to, let's say, decide on an escalation, is too unique to incorporate into a system prompt, right? And so we do have a way for this agent to learn over time from runtime executions where you can incorporate this into your agent itself without having to go back in and create a new agent version and then deploy it to your environment. So here, once again, we have this discrepancy investigation agent. We have an escalation here that basically says, if there's a discrepancy greater than $100, let's go ahead and escalate it, create an action center task, and let's bring a human in the loop to make a decision on this particular, invoice and purchase order. And so again, we're passing in the invoice data from upstream, extracted out via IXP, and then we have PO data that we're taking in from Data Fabric. All right. Um, to showcase how this particularly works, I do have a representative example. So here I have an invoice from a vendor. There is a freight line item of $150 that is not on the purchase order. Okay, this is a particular vendor. We do have it in our contract, but for whatever reason, they never add the freight line. So we know for this vendor, time and time again, they're always going to add this freight line, but they're not going to include it on their purchase order. Because it's over the threshold, it's going to escalate to a human every single time. So we want to be able to teach this agent for this particular vendor, for this particular amount, I don't want you to escalate to a human. And so before we add memory, you're going to see inside the execution trace here, the agent's going to go through, it's going to take in the information, and then it's going to escalate to a human. Normally, the human would just go ahead and complete that action center task, and then we would finish. Okay. And so what I'm going to do is up here on the agent node, I'm going to go ahead and click on memory. And you can create a new memory store if you want, or you can go ahead and select a existing one. Your memory stores are actually available through your agent space inside memories. And you can create them here. They are folder scopes, so you can share them across multiple different types of agents or processes. And inside here, you would actually see and accumulate and manage all of your memories for both escalation and episodic memory. What we're going to do first is we're going to take a look at this escalation-based memory. So I'm going to add to the memory. I'm going to select that memory space. And then this configuration experience will show up. We're going to take a back seat for episodic memory for now. And we're just going to go ahead and add this escalation-based memory. So if you had multiple escalations in this agent, you can go ahead and add each one. But since I only have one, I only have one selection. And then here's some settings. You can set when this escalation should occur or be brought in and used in the agent execution. There's search mode, so you can have both keyword and semantic search, because when these escalations are saved, they're actually saved in a context grounding index that we're just retrieving at runtime. And then you can basically say, for this escalation, what do you want to retrieve on? And so in this escalation or human in the loop task that we've created, we have multiple inputs that are going in to trigger this escalation. I want to basically say, hey, for this vendor, right, and this discrepancy amount, I want to go ahead and retrieve a memory or an escalation that's previously been used. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And I'll exit out. And so you can see here, this escalation-based memory has been enabled. Okay. Key thing with escalation-based memory, it will start collecting memory for that escalation once you've enabled it. All right. So let's go ahead and run this once again. All right, so I've already gone ahead and pulled in the invoice and PO data here, and then we're going to go ahead and run it. So once again, there are no escalation-based memories. And so the first time that this occurs, it's actually going to escalate to me, and then it's going to save my decision for this particular escalation. All right, here we are. All right, here's the Action Center task that was created. We'll go ahead and click on that. All right, here's our task. All right, as you can see here, here's the vendor, the invoice, the total amount of discrepancy for the freight charge. This looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. All right, all done. And the agent inside the trace itself, you'll see there is a brand new trace that says save escalation memory. So that verifies that the escalation memory was saved. And if I go back inside my memory space, you'll see this brand new memory that's been created for that escalation. Okay. So now that the escalation has been saved and this execution has finished, let's see what happens if I run this once again. All right, so our agent's going to run through. So I'm going to call some context grounding queries. These are contracts that are available for each of the vendors inside my system. All right, so here you can see that it did escalate again, but instead of actually creating the Action Center task, it went ahead and just approved this escalation based upon the decision that I made last time, right? And if I look at this find previous memory, you'll see that this was true, and it actually shows you inside the trace itself which memory it pulled in to complete the Action Center task. So this is super helpful in terms of very particular instincts or scenarios in which you have a customer or a particular vendor or object, all right, that you want to make a decision for. This allows you to have better straight-through processing and have a smoother end-to-end automation without human-in-the-loop interactions. All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears really quickly. What I want to show you now is what we call episodic memory. Let's go ahead and disable the escalation-based memory, and then we're going to go in and we're just going to save this. So both memories are not enabled now. And this time, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a partial shipment. And so here's another invoice from a vendor. As you can see here, everything looks good. The quantity for this second line item is 30. And if I look at a purchase order, here's everything, but the quantity for second line item in the purchase order should have been 60, right? So this is a short shipment. This happens very frequently. And what normally would happen is, they'll go ahead and send the first shipment out, send an invoice, and then when they go ahead and ship out the back order, they'll send a second invoice. What we want to do is teach this agent, hey, when this happens, it's perfectly fine. I don't want to escalate every single time. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to pull in some data for that invoice and purchase order. So I'm going to go ahead and replace these input strings. And then this is going to run now. So the key thing to note between these two types of memories, escalation-based memory, once you enable it, it automatically starts collecting. Every single escalation that comes through will be added automatically to your memory store. Episodic memory is a little bit different. Instead of only triggering when you have an escalation, we are actually going to utilize feedback that you have for agent executions. So here we are in this particular execution. We have an escalation again. If we take a look at it, we can see the reason for this escalation. You can see here, all right, there's a shortfall or a short shipment for this amount. We're going to go ahead and approve this, and it will end. All right. So the main difference between these two types of escalations is with escalation-based memory, it only triggers when you have escalations. with episodic memory, we basically want to not only influence when escalations happen, but actually the behavior of the agent itself when similar executions happen based upon the inputs to the agent. Okay. So I will wait for this to finish. Sometimes Claude is a little bit slower on some of these other models. I'm sure because they're just providing compute to Fable and Opus 5 and all these other ones. But to have episodic memory, you basically go to the very top trace of the agent, and then we can go ahead and thumbs up, thumbs down, provide negative feedback here. I basically say, hey, next time when you encounter a similar execution for this invoice or PO, I want you to incorporate this feedback. So we want to say, do not escalate, right? When there is a shortfall or short shipment, okay? And then you can go ahead and add your memory store here. All right, and we'll click submit. When you do that, you'll get a banner and you will see that this has been added to our memory store. If you're trying to do this and you don't see the ability to add memory to that memory store, it's because you clicked on one of these traces that wasn't the top one. We are working on that so that you can add it to the top trace automatically. But if we go back inside our agent and we look at episodic memory, you'll see it right here. Okay. So let me go ahead and run this one more time. And let's see what happens. Oh, give me 1 second. I do need to go in and enable episodic memory. So we're going to go ahead and enable episodic memory. Okay. We're going to add an argument again, similar to escalation-based memory. You need an input that it's going to benchmark against to say, when should I retrieve this particular memory? We just go ahead and do invoice data here, and we'll click save. Then let's go ahead and close this out. All right. Let's go ahead and run this. All right, so when you enable the episodic memory, the first thing you're going to see is when the agent starts executing, it's going to look at the inputs that you provided it to benchmark on, and it's going to go and look through the memory store for episodic memory and say, is there any memories here that I should incorporate back into the agent execution? If so, we're going to go ahead and inject this into the system prompt as an example. Okay. I see here it did escalate still. Sometimes this does happen, so I just need to be a little bit stronger in my wording, but the intent here is that it would basically bypass the escalation. So let's see, shortfall. Yeah. All right. I will share a update. It's not so great at, let's say, bypassing escalations. It's more better for behavioral or output-based formatting. All right. I know we're running out of time, so there's two last things that I want to show you. One is an advanced agent. So here's our advanced agent harness. If you guys are familiar with, LangChain or the Claude Agent SDK, we have provided now a new advanced harness that's now in private preview. Please go into the Insider portal. You can sign up and we can showcase it to you. But basically, in relation to the standard harness or the normal agents that you build in Agent Builder, this allows you to have planning. It can spawn sub agents. It has a scratch pad and a file system. So it's much more powerful for long horizon, large context tasks, right? And so it could do things that are much more complicated and long running that, let's say, standard agents couldn't do. For this particular use case, we are going to utilize it for deeper research. And what it's going to do is take in a vendor name and a purchase order vendor name and see if there's actually a legitimate relationship between them. Okay. And we will see this execute in the scenario of the end-to-end flow. So here's the flow that you said you showed us earlier. As you can see here, we're going to receive an email. This is going to be an invoice that we received from the vendor. We're going to download it. We're going to use IXP for extraction. A lot of people ask us, when should I use IXP or IDP versus agents? Whenever you're doing extraction, you should utilize the extract node that we have in Maestro Flow now for extraction. This is because it's much higher accuracy. It has built-in learning with fine-tuned models. We highly recommend for extraction-based use cases, utilize our IDP, IXP product lines. It's much better. And then utilize agents for intelligence, right? So we extract information from the invoice. We just go ahead and use a script to transform it into a nicely formatted JSON that we can utilize downstream. And then we're going to query our purchase order information from Data Fabric. Afterwards, we're going to check to see if the vendor name matches the purchase order name. This is important because sometimes the entity that, let's say, submits the invoice is going to be a parent entity, and the underlying entity that submits the purchase order is a subsidiary. So if you think about Google and Alphabet, that's a valid parent subsidiary relationship. If they don't match, we're going to pass it off to our advanced agent who's going to do some deep research to figure out whether or not this is a valid entity. And then once it's finished, it's going to provide its findings to an inline human-in-the-loop action center task here, right? So we don't have to go out and create an action app. You can now create all of your action center tasks directly inside the Maestro canvas. And then based on that, we'll go ahead and pass it off to that discrepancy investigation agent that we saw. And then one of the most powerful features that we do have now in MaestroFlow is inline agents. You don't have to go into Agent Builder to create your agents. You can do everything inline, so you can think about your entire process at the process level rather than the task-based level and string them together. Last but not least, we will go ahead and reply back to that email. And so I've gone ahead and emailed myself a DevDives invoice here. That's going to showcase an invoice that came from the parent company, Alphabet, and the purchase order is going to be from Google. And so let's go ahead and run this really quickly and take a look. So I did see a question come through about, when should I use Maestro versus maybe some of the other surfaces. All agents, particularly unless you're running, let's say, a conversational agent that's a single point of solution, is going to be executed in some way, shape, or form or orchestrated through deterministic means. So leverage agents for non-determinism, right, or complex business rules or ways that you want to incorporate memory into your process. And then you can leverage it through, RPA processes, API workflows, or other means. But really what we want you to be able to do is leverage them through MaestroFlow, because what that allows is for you to have a much more comprehensive, durable execution, right? You can go ahead and pause the execution. You can go backwards, forwards, and you can go ahead and build things inline. You can think about things from a process level. Get stuck here. Let's try this one more time.
Always the risk of running a live demo instead of a pre-recorded one.
Yeah. It's funny. Whenever I run a live demo, they tend to kind of bug out. But then whenever you're trying to show a bug, it always ends up working. Yeah. All right. As it's running through, the main things that I did want to showcase is the advanced agent. So when the advanced agent runs, it has the ability to spawn off basically a scratch pad of things that it's going to do. So it'll write down a bunch of tasks that it needs to perform. And as it's going through and performing those tasks, it'll update that scratch pad so it can track the work that it's doing. And it's a lot more deterministic in nature and a lot more comprehensive. We'll give it another 10 seconds. Otherwise, it will switch back to you, Cobus.
Okay.
Here we go.
I think, oh, there we go.
Yeah. All right. So now we're going to pass it to the advanced agent. So as you can see here, the advanced agent is going to write a bunch of to-dos, right? It's going to compare both of them, perform a bunch of searches, right? And then classify the relationship. And we can all specify this inside the system prompt of how we should formulate its plan, how we should verify its plan, the evidence it should collect. And as you can see here, as it's going through, it has this built-in tool to basically update the status of these work items. Of course, it can also spawn sub-agents that I haven't specified here, but all those things are encapsulated. And they'll also have additional built-in tools like file analysis, web search, and code execution. So we're really excited about advanced agents. All right. So I won't let you guys sit here and wait for this, but hopefully that was a good overview of memory within agents, advanced agents, and how you can string them all together deterministically, non-deterministically, and with human in the loop within MaestroFlow.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Tuan. We're going to go over into Q&A in a second. Just before we get to that part, I see there's a quick question in the chat as well about that the canvas that you showed us looks a lot like N8N. And yes, N8N is also a workflow a system that you build workflows in. The main difference is with UiPath, AI agents are actually a native component inside, so you don't have to go and do a lot of custom tooling and connecting and fiddling to get those working. And I think the other important part that's worth noting here as well is like as soon as you start running agents in productions, that's when you start worrying about, governance, audit logs. Did the agent actually run? And like Tuan mentioned a couple of times, is if it stops midway, can it continue from that point, or do you have to restart it, etc. So we're going to bring a couple of links on the screen now, I believe. Andrea will bring that up for us. What do we have on there? Let me just see when it comes up. Actually, okay, while we wait for that link to come up, I'm just going to drop the link to the top level page for the community dev dives. On that page, you'll see there will be a new one added for this one that we had today. And when you click on that link, once we've published it, that's where we'll put the recording of the video and any additional links in there. And I'll see if I can bribe Isabu and Tuan to give me the exports of the projects that we demoed today, and I can see if we can get that up on GitHub somewhere for you to also download and play around with. Because I saw a couple of questions in the chat saying, let's look at this, the IXP portion more, or look at the other portion more. So I'll see if I can get all of that together, put it in a GitHub repo, and then we'll put it on that page when it is available. So while we wait, let's start getting some questions into the chat that we can go through. There we go. Okay, I see it's just Isabu that pasted the prompts that he used.
Yeah, there's one before about IXP. I'm not sure if you covered. Going into more details into some, founders point
No,
of
I
view.
think, yeah, let's tackle that one first, yeah.
Sure, I can provide feedback on that. I went ahead and just created an IXP project inside the IXP module, right? So it's a standard IXP standalone project that you can bring into a MaestroFlow, just like you can bring in a standalone, let's say, agent builder project. But we're working really closely with the documents team to actually bring that entire experience in line within MaestroFlow. So again, the focus of MaestroFlow is to have a unified canvas where you don't have to go to separate areas of the platform to do things. You can do things all within a single canvas, right? So you can focus on the process and not necessarily the individual components.
Awesome, thanks. There was another question by Eric regarding memory. So the question is, so memory adjustment is always a manual process? You need to tell it which things to remember or not.
So there's two ways. One is escalation-based memory that will automatically be collected, right? I will be honest, escalation-based memory is a little bit easier to understand, and at least you know that the human has made a decision. With episodic memory, we've made it an explicit feedback and an explicit action to add to your memory store because it's a little bit more subjective in nature. I would say escalation-based memory is more deterministic in terms of how you decided on that human in the loop task. Whereas episodic memory, because it's few shot examples, we want to make sure that you have full control over how that's incorporated. And one of the key things that we have coming out as part of our public preview and beyond is the ability to manage your memory spaces a little bit more. So you can go through and see any memories that should be deprecated or out of date, as well as contradictions that you may have added. One of the things we're also adding with episodic memory is when you add it, we'll also see if there's also an existing memory that might be contradicting or that should be consolidated. So memory management is very, very important to us.
Awesome, thanks. There's another question. Let me just quickly read through it.
Yeah, while you do that, I think there was a previous comment from Richard. I'm not sure if he's still on the call, which is a very good one, saying that, okay, working with command line commands, it's tedious. And that's actually the point, right? They are super powerful. They are still used because they are super reliable every time. It is the predictable job done and it's not left to the coding agent. But that's the point because they are powerful, but the headache that they give us is no longer needed because coding agent can take that headache and do it for ourselves. Just wanted to show the power. So yeah, spot on that. Those are not meant for humans. They're super powerful, and now coding agent would do that for us.
Awesome, thanks. The question, I think it's from Aditya, if I understand this correctly, is the question is around when a some kind of request comes in that requires getting data out of the database. So, for example, using a unique vendor ID that then has to go and extract that data out of the database along with I'm assuming related data to, for example, the unique employer ID plus the bank details. So it sounds like Aditya, what you're asking is how do we connecting to a database, to the flow? If you can just comment in the chat if I answered the question correctly, we can give that one a tackle.
I might be able to provide some insights.
Okay.
Overall, as you saw in the Maestro flow, you can go ahead and query Data Fabric directly, right? So if you have, let's say, a primary key that you want to retrieve from, you can do that, right? It's very easy to do a deterministic check. I think maybe potentially what people are interested in is like, how do I use an agent to do a query to a database, right? Does it need to know the schema? What kind of like primary keys it needs to have? How is it going to know the relationships between these tables? So we're working really closely with the Data Fabric team for both what we call native integrations for Data Fabric. So what you can go ahead and do is give your tables and your Data Fabric entities to the agent, and it will actually know the schema, right? So we can do some relational database queries in addition to all the other information that you give it. But we also have what we call zero copy. And so this will allow you to go ahead and connect to your external databases. You don't have to copy your data into our platform or into Data Fabric, and it will be able to do those queries as well. And the intent over time is for us to be able to upload and ingest ontologies and other relational schemas that you have so that you can do that all throughout the agent itself, not necessarily just through deterministic means.
Awesome. Sorry, I was just quickly pasting that link there. So we are going to wrap it up now. The last link I sent there is we just four guides that we published, I think about 2 weeks ago. For those that wanted to get started with agents and go play around with them, there are three different variants. The one is where you just use the UI Cloud interface to build it all by hand by clicking in the interface. And then the second one is where you can do the same low code, no code. Agent building, but you do that via the CLI to start getting familiar with how things work under the hood. And the third one is actually using coded agents. What we have on the screen is the next steps for all the for this session. So if you want to take a quick screenshot or save those or just take a photo of the QR codes so you can access them later. I think we can leave it on for another minute or two. Andrea, I just confirmed, sorry, this is my first time doing the Dev Dives live, so I don't know if we'll get into trouble if we run over.
No problem if you run over.
Awesome. Okay, just double checking. I've been in situations where if you don't stop at 30 seconds before the hour, they will come for you. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thanks everyone very much for joining today. And remember, we are doing these on a monthly cadence. So the next one is already open for registration and it will be on the site as well as the link that was shared earlier. So thanks for joining us today. And thanks very much to Tuan and Yusubu for hosting this awesome session.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Cool. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks.